All right, good evening, everyone. So we have the January 9th WestCat meeting. It is 6:30, so we'll get started. So we can have the roll call, please.
Devin Murphy,
Here.
Tiffany Grimsley,
Present, sorry.
Tom Hanson,
Here?
Norma Martinez Rubin,
Good evening, hello.
Heidi Swellinger. Here.
All right, so let's rise and pledge to the allegiance. Pledge
I
allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, should we approve the agenda? Anybody like to make a motion?
I would like to motion to approve the agenda as is.
I'll second.
All right, on the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? All right, so the agenda is approved. Do we have any public communications?
None.
All right, shall we go to the consent calendar? Any questions on the consent calendar, or would you like to make a motion to approve it, 1 through 4?
I move to approve items on the consent calendar.
I second the motion.
All right, those moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? All right. 2.0, items for board discussion. Consideration adoption of Resolution 202501, authorizing the filing of an application for the FTA Formula Program and Service Transportation Programs funding for Vallejo vehicle replacements. General Manager.
I'm actually going to ask Mike Veneri to
Oh.
take this item. I will just preface it. This is an item that we bring to the board probably every 2 or 3 years, so it's a standard form that we kind of do. It's just I wanted to put it on the actual agenda because it's not something that comes annually. It's kind of not something that you always see. So.
Yeah, as Rob said, this is something that is requires board approval every so often. MTC will put out a call for projects every 1 to 4 years to develop a program of projects that will be funded during that certain period of time. This year's program is a 2-year program covering fiscal years 25 and 26. WestCat has identified the replacement of 2 45-foot vehicles as well as our annual use of ADA funding assistance to provide ADA paratransit service. This may seem like a formality, asking you to grant us permission to request funds to pay for this. I think largely this has to do with the fact that there's a local match obligation that's attached to this that you have to be aware of. WestCat uses a variety of funding sources for local match. Anywhere we use TDA, mainly TDA, but also we have state of good repair funds, possibly AB 664. And in this particular case, it amounts to $533,000. And we would be asking for federal assistance in the amount of $2,132,904. So we do need your permission to actually write the grants to receive these funds. So that's what we're asking you for tonight, is to approve us to be able to write the grants for the next 2 years to fund these projects.
All right. So is there any questions?
Question
Please.
here. Thank you for your report. I realize we can't always tell what's forthcoming. However, you have any idea today as to what additional grants will be sought to help with the funding after year 2?
Well, there is the call for project actually was for 4 years, but they only developed a 2-year program. We, moving out, have identified additional, starting in 2027, we're going to start purchasing the hydrogen vehicles. So moving forward in the next, as the plan is currently written or as the projects are submitted, and they could change, but those are the projects that we submitted in a 4-year call for projects that included the hydrogen vehicles, as well as additional ADA operating funds. So that's for 2 more years after this, but this time around, they only developed a 2-year program of projects. So that's what we're working with now. The others are in there, and they'll come and we'll be here again in 2 more years to once again ask for permission to write the grant for those as well. But that is what is actually in the call for projects, because we actually gave them 4 years of projects, but they only developed a 2-year program.
Okay.
Maybe if I could just add a little bit more detail, because I think this is the important thing to remember about this is the federal program. So this is the federal dollars that are returned to the entire Bay Area region, and they're allocated by urban area. And then there's kind of a competitive process through the MTC region to actually apply for those funds. We fall into one of the larger UDAs, obviously the San Francisco, Oakland area. So the limited federal dollars, we compete with AC Transit, BART, Muni, WETA, a number of other smaller agencies. So that's actually an advantage to us because we're a small agency and we're only ever asking MTC to allocate, for 2 vehicle purchases or for 5 vehicle purchases, whereas, Muni and AC Transit are going after 150 vehicle purchases. So when these programs roll out every 2 to 4 years, we always put in a request for the vehicle replacements that we are due to have in that cycle, and we've always been approved through that process, because the reality is if there was a federal shortage of funding across all of the projects that all of the operators submitted to MTC, they would go to Muni or to AC Transit and say, instead of 150 vehicles, can you just purchase 140 this year? So there's kind of an unwritten regional agreements as to how these funds get allocated to ensure that smaller operators do receive, an opportunity to use those funds. They are pretty limited to what's called Score 16, which is basically vehicle replacement. So pretty much all federal dollars that come to the Bay Area end up in vehicle replacement or large capital, for some of the large operators. So we hope the source is a stable source going forward. And I think the local match, Mike identified some of the local match fund sources that we have. The other one is we have the Regional Measure 3 funds that we've allocated already to some future vehicle purchases. So that's another source of local funds that we haven't had in the past that allows us to kind of carry on making these purchases and using the local match.
Thank you both. Somewhat related question. How many, I promise I'll try to keep this in mind through the year or through my term here on the board. Upon return, I recall asking this question in the past. I don't remember the number then. How many vehicles do we have? How many, and I know there are different types, just out of curiosity, how many vehicles are there that carry passengers, not the service vehicles?
There you go, 60.
60, thank you. And what's the average life of one of these where you are? I know there's ongoing maintenance, but what's the average life, service life of those 60 vehicles at this point?
The replacement cycle for the buses is 12 years, 12 years and 500,000 miles. So we hold on to them every 12 years. So all the vehicles that we replace are at least a minimum of 12 years old.
The larger over-road coaches are 14 years, and the really small cutaways are only 5 years. So that's kind of across the different types of vehicles that we have. But the majority of the fleet, as Mike says, are 12 years.
Thank you both.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? All right, would someone like to make a motion to, thank you, Mike, like to make a motion for adoption?
I'll move approval of the resolution 2025-01 authorizing the filing of the application.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone like to abstain? All right, 2.1 carries. 2.2, paratransit one-seat ride program. Permanent MOU recommendation authorize general manager to finalize and enter into the permanent MOU with County Connection, Tri-Delta Transit, and LAFTA to formalize one-seat ride paratransit program. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you. So we've talked about this program quite a lot over the last few years since the pilot was introduced in 2020. So it was developed between the 4 agencies. It's been a really successful project over the 4+ years that we've been operating it. The reason why we've not made it permanent until now is due to the issue that we had with the reporting element of reporting the hours and the miles of service provided within each of the 4 different service areas. The way that the FTA and the National Transit Database was set up, how their database is set up, they didn't have a way for us to actually accurately report information. And while it remained a pilot, we were not required to report the information, so that wasn't that's kind of the get out free card on that. But in order to make it permanent, we needed to work. And to be fair, County Connection did a lot of the heavy lifting on meeting with the FTA, meeting with the National Transit Database to come up with a way to allow our information to be accurately reported to the National Transit Database. The importance of that is ultimately hours and miles and passengers that are served within individual service areas play a role in how much federal funding you end up receiving. It kind of all trickles back down. So while it's not a huge amount, it is important to make sure we get those kind of information right in the National Transit Database. So we've got that in place, and then I'll just give a little, we've talked about this program a lot, but I think because it's been so beneficial, it's worth highlighting some of the importance of the program. So ultimately, this means that a rider in the Pinole, Hercules, the unincorporated service areas of our service area can travel if they qualify for ADA paratransit rides, they can travel from anywhere in our service area, anywhere throughout the rest of Contra Costa County, and even into Livermore and the Pleasanton kind of service areas. It's a unique system. One of the other challenges with the National Transit Database is that this is the only kind of 4-agency collaboration of this kind in the country. At the point, so it's a unique program, and it's something that a lot of other agencies and areas are looking at as to how we manage to develop it and get that agreement between 4 agencies to come up with a pricing structure, cost structure, and all kind of agree on how that would roll out. It's not only beneficial to the passengers who no longer have to. In our case, we used to pick a rider up, take them to Martinez. The passenger would then potentially sit around on our vehicle waiting for the County Connection vehicle to come and connect. That could be a 20, 25-minute wait. It could be perfect. It could be a 1-minute wait, but it could be 20, 25-minute waits. And then on the reverse leg, do exactly the same thing. So it really benefited the rider experience. It's also really benefited us operationally, because we no longer have to send the vehicle out to Martinez to come back with no riders on board. We've kind of eliminated that deadhead cost of making that whole trip. So beneficially, it's freed up our drivers, our riders to kind of help improve the local service. And I think all 4 of the operators have experienced exactly the same kind of benefits to their individual systems. I did note that the cost of the trips, the cost per trip of this type of service, because it's done through a third-party TNC type program who are qualified to take ADA eligible passengers, it's a lot less than our regular cost for providing data ride. I mean, it's a $15 per trip compared to a $55, $60 per trip. And again, that's consistent against the 4 agencies that are all seeing these type of benefits. So with making it a permanent program, the one kind of additional change is County Connection, after 4 years of easing up all of the administrative overheads of providing this service, of developing the software needed to understand the billing process, which is actually really complicated when you try and figure out how long a vehicle spent, not only miles, but time in 4 different individual service areas, and making sure that all of the potential routes that you could get between service areas are covered. So there's a lot of work done in developing that. So County Connection going forward are requesting that the cost of the administrative burden is kind of included in their monthly invoices, which in our percent is around a 10% cost. It's not a huge amount of dollar value. So happy to answer any more questions, but we are looking to go ahead, make this permanent MOU and move forward. Maybe I'll just add one other caveat, because we've also been working closely with East Bay Paratransit, which is the consortium that provides the paratransit service for AC Transit and BART. it's been a long set of conversations to try and get them either to join our program, which I, as the WestCat general manager, would really love, because a lot of our eligible passengers are actually going to Richmond, to San Pablo, to El Cerrito, to Berkeley, Oakland. And we're not taking a huge amount of people to Martinez. You know, as great as that service is, it'd be much more beneficial to a lot of our riders to go to the rest of Western Contra Costa, or even into Alameda County. It's a difficult negotiation. There's AC Trans have a lot of union concerns over this type of service being provided. They have their own financial, fiscal concerns about how successful this program could be and how burdensome it could become on their own operations. So we were sort of moving towards a potential resolution, or a potential another pilot to kind of fit in with our permanent program. But with the change in the AC Transit general manager, that's potentially changing options, because some of his concerns have now gone away, and we're not sure what new concerns may come up. So that's an ongoing discussion. And we've also worked or started conversations with Soltrans about potential them joining the kind of consortium, or the coalition, because not only do they have connections to our service area, they also have a number of connections, again, to Martinez, to Concord, to a lot of the county connection service area. So I think there's also potential for them to join this group of agencies. Just, I mean, I guess, you know, when this was originally thought out, the whole concept was to improve the rider experience. So, I mean, I think we've done that, and I think that's why I say a lot of other agencies are looking at this as an inspiration to kind of try and put this together. So with that, I'll happily answer any questions.
All right. Have you had any feedback from MTC?
We have. So MTC, as part of the whole work that they're doing, the Regional Network Management Program, one of the tasks that came out of the Blue Ribbon Task Force was to look at these kind of programs to improve, again, to improve the ride experience for the ADA eligible passenger. So MTC are trying to figure out various pilots. They're trying to start with at least 2 unique pilots throughout the Bay Area of at least 2 agencies collaborating together to do this kind of work. And there's different ways to do it. You know, I mean, I think they see how successful our approach is, but I think they're looking for other agencies to come up with different ideas, different thoughts of how to do that. And so they're doing that. They're working with all the agencies, and that's why I said that the East Bay Paratransit, AC Transit, WestCat thing could potentially be a different pilot program, because I know if to get East Bay Paratransit interested, they were working with MTC about potential funding through that pilot program. So yes, MTC are definitely, you know, very interested in the kind of the work that we've done.
Any other questions? Oh, please.
I'm really excited that we're at the point of a permanent MOU for this. I have had the opportunity to have conversations with individuals who use paratransit, and there are individuals that would prefer to have a one-seat program or have more privacy with their within their transit time. So a couple of questions. The MOU indicates that the parties will meet regularly. It also indicates that there will be monthly reports. So it sort of infers that there will be monthly meetings. Can you speak to how often, ideally, those meetings will occur, and if there's any relation between those and the reporting?
I think the general managers meet and talk about this at least monthly. I mean, I think that's ongoing. I think the plan with the MOU is to set up more of a staff level kind of group that would meet monthly. We've talked a lot about the reporting and the KPIs, and I think that's what you're referencing. I don't think they're fully developed yet. I think County Connection are confident that they have that information, and they've started sharing some of it. And I think we're having the conversations about, okay, can we have that overall picture of the 4 agencies' information, but can we also pull out individual agencies' kind of information? And I think what I know that we've talked about, again, is how we would bring that to our individual boards. And I think, you know, that would be something that we would probably look to not incorporate so much into the monthly report, but has an extension of that. So it's, you know, it's kind of, it's an ongoing set of KPIs or graphs or whatever it is, just to kind of track this information.
Okay. Well, you answered my second question, which was if the modifications would come back to this board. So, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Everybody good? You good?
As well, excited about now seeing a program coming to this new status of permanence, because the need is still out there. Not so much a question as to what, well, okay, I'll frame it as a question. In preparing your discussions, the negotiation aspect of to collaborate with the other agencies, and was in those discussions, and even with the other agency representatives, was there any comment on the existence of a specific segment of a community in any jurisdiction that is really a key segment to service? I'm thinking about the senior center, senior housing facilities that we have, for example, here in Pinole, where the residents there are likely to need paratransit services. I recall a conversation many years ago when this program was beginning to be considered, happened to be at one of the facilities, and the exchange between the resident and myself resulted in me learning about the challenge that there is in accessing medical services in this part of town. And so people may live in a city, but their service provider, medical service or clinical service provider, is elsewhere. In this case, corroborates what you commented on. It wasn't in Martinez. It was farther west. And so I imagine that there are still residents in facilities here that cater toward that age group, that face similar situations, and that could be the kind of input that could continue having a WestCat be an agency that is listening to that segment of the community and offers that kind of input to the rest of the group that at this point is willing to collaborate and still probably wondering how things will be going in years in the future.
Sure. So, I mean, I think the one thing I'd say in response to that is, I think we kind of have took it upon ourselves as an agency with the help of, MV over the years to make sure that we offer a slightly above and beyond kind of version of what we should offer to seniors, to ADA eligible passengers, in the sense that we go to the medical centres in Richmond. There may be modification on hours of when we do it, and there may be a little bit more work to actually get that trip booked. But we go out. We go to medical centres in San Pablo. We take people there because we understand the need and the difficulty of sometimes making those connections with other agencies. So it's something we've always done, and it's something we kind of plan on continuing to do. And it's it's not perfect. It's not eligible to everybody from 9 to 5 every day. There's limitations around it, but we do try and work to make sure that we make those connections because they are important. And that's the whole reason why I feel that the collaboration with East Bay Paratransit is really important, because that's going way beyond where we could normally do. And but it's then where AC Transit get concerned, because they've got a huge service area and a huge amount of population who would potentially be eligible for these type of trips. So it's I sort of understand their questions and their hesitation on it, but I think at the end of the day we're trying to do the right thing, and I think that's what we're trying to ultimately achieve.
Thank you.
Oh, please.
Sort of piggybacking on that response, is there any projection, probability, possibility that there will be a senior ride component to the one-seat rider program in the foreseeable future?
If a large funding source appears,
Years.
I'm actually being serious in the sense that CCTA is going through their process of looking at potential next measure. There's Measure X funds currently available for, and we do work really closely with the other agencies, CCTA, a number of non-profits on kind of potential Measure X projects for that type of thing that's above and beyond what we as the agencies can do. So I'm not sure it would quite be in the same vein as the one-seat ride program, but I think there's a lot of programs being developed and talked about to look at the non-ADA population, if you like, just the general senior population. I think all four of our agencies that do this one-seat ride that have the ADA, we all have different interpretations of what we do. We provide ADA service to anyone within our entire service area. That's pretty unique. It doesn't matter where they live. They don't need to live within 3/4 mile of a fixed route. They don't need to, when that route's in operation. Really, that technically at 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday, very few people will qualify for ADA service, but we open it up to every single person. Each agency does that differently. So there's just another, when you start bringing seniors into that, it just adds into that potential snowball effect of how successful this program could be, and could we keep our hands around it.
I just wanted to ask, is your vision was like a program that's targeted, your vision is something that's targeted specifically to seniors that aren't necessarily disabled?
Correct.
I love that idea. I really do. That really has legs, or wheels, maybe.
Well, there is an existing senior ride service
Is there?
that is similar to paratransit service. So that's what.
It's only within our service area, so
Right.
that you then cannot connect to the other agencies. So it's limited in that you only be able to, in each individual agency, the ADA part has the element that you can transfer to another agency to get further and further, where you need to go. The senior programs are very much more community-based or, individual agency-based. In the rest of Contra Costa, Richmond has its own program. San Pablo has its own program. El Cerrito, they're all very insular into what they can provide. Here we have our whole service area, so it's Pinole, Hercules, and the unincorporated areas all have access to that senior service.
Oh, please, Stefan.
Yeah, Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager to finalize and enter into the permanent MOU.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone like to abstain? All right, 2.2 carries. All right. 3.0, committee report, general manager's report.
So just a couple of items. So in your agenda, agenda item 1.4, I'm just going to refer to the couple of items that were shown in there. One was the WestCat holiday bus that we wrapped a bus. I hope you saw it out in the community. We tried to get it out on, I think, on every route that we could throughout the month. I think it looked really good. I was really pleased with how it looked, and we got a lot of feedback. We ended up with, we didn't see a huge increase in ridership. That was never really the intent, but it was free rides if you rode that vehicle. So we had around just under 2,500 passengers on board on each individual route throughout the month. Obviously the most popular ones were the J route. We saved over 500 passengers on those trips throughout there. So it's something that we'll think about doing next year, but the caveat is that the agency that we had a contract to do our advertising on our vehicles has withdrawn from Northern California. So they did this wrap, and they removed this wrap even though technically a contract had ended with them. So we're happy that they at least be able to do that. So we will look to go out to bid, put an RFP out. But the reality is there's not a lot of firms out there looking to put advertising and sell advertising on vehicles of a transit agency this size. So we will go out, we will go through the process. It's just a reality. We may not find anyone, or we may find someone with certainly less favourable terms than we had under our current contract. I say that because I know other agencies have recently gone through, and there's been one firm who's made a bid, and it's been on very less favourable terms than they've had in the past. I mean, the age of lots of companies and firms wanting to advertise and buy advertising on transit vehicles is seemingly not as ripe as it once was. So just a caveat on that. The second item was the new signage that the regional network management has been working on. So the new signage that it's a prototype at the Del Norte BART station of all regional signage. They're now working on a prototype in Santa Rosa for there, kind of developing some different elements to how the signs will look, how the maps are developed, how the colours on the maps, the colours on the agency signs. So we were really excited to see it roll out Del Norte BART. I mean, if you get a chance to go out there, I think even the new bus flags that on the poles, they're not the WestCat colours, but I think they look really good. And I think it's a good move forward. And I've been involved in trying to get a unified regional mapping and wayfinding and signage program since I started with the agencies. It's been an ongoing battle and challenge, and I think we're finally actually making some real progress. And this is the first time in 18 years there's actual signs on the street that could potentially unify that throughout the entire region. So I think it's a really good kind of step, and I'll be really excited if we can actually at one point get all of these flags on all of our poles, because if you go around, you'll see some flags that could really do with being upgraded and replaced, and this could be the potential to get that project kind of done. So quick update on the WestCat evolution, the comprehensive operations analysis. So we've been continuing to work with the consultant on that. The board had the presentation in November. We did our surveys of our ridership. We ended up with around 650 passenger surveys, which we were really, really pleased with, because we pretty much were kind of like put the surveys on the vehicles and asked passengers to fill them in. Really pleased with the encouragements of the MV drivers, who really worked to encourage riders to fill in this information. We actually had a little incentive for the drivers that got the most surveys filled in. We actually gave them a gift card. So there were some drivers that were very committed to, you're not getting off my bus unless you fill this survey in kind of approach. So that was really good. We're currently working on 2 open houses, 2 community events. We're looking at probably in early February, one at the Ohlone Centre in Hercules, probably on a Saturday, and one at the Punole Library on a Wednesday evening. So we're developing kind of some, staging areas with information, with posters, things like that. So we're working on that. And I think once we get those dates finalised, we will ask the board, and if you can distribute this to any kind of mailing list that you have, so we can get as much interest from the community as we can at those events. We're also working on the logistics of a direct mailer to all of the residents within the service area, so we're kind of just evaluating the cost of that and the potential value that we'll get from that. Then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all introduce Tanya Babcock, who is our newest employee. She is our new our new compliance and grants manager. So she started just last week. She's come from Tri-Delta Transit. She has a lot of experience in transit. It's been in transit for quite a long time, doing this type of work that she's going to be doing, but also got a marketing background and things like that. So she's bringing a lot of good experience to the agency. And this is not a new position. This is a position that we've had with the agency for a number of years. So it's also Mike Faneri, who has been in that role, is actually retiring next week. So we've had a great relationship over the last 6 years, where he's done kind of come in and got us maintained all of our compliance and all our grant material. So he's been working with Tanya, who he's worked with in the past. They both come from Tri-Delta, so passing on his knowledge, his experience. So we're really pleased that Mike can retire, but we're also really pleased to have Tanya on board. I think she's going to be a really valuable, great asset going forward. So that's all I have tonight.
It's always nice when you can raid the talent from somebody else.
Well, it's probably worth saying that Mike did the hard lifting on that.
So for the next couple months, whatever goes wrong was Mike's fault?
Yes.
Go ahead, blame it on me. I won't be here.
Well, congratulations. All right, so do we have any correspondence?
None.
All right. Is there any board communications or items for future board meetings from the board? All right. Shall we adjourn?
I was going to say, I'm not sure if there was a WICTAC update.
I wasn't able to make the meeting, yeah. So, and Chris isn't here, so. So shall we adjourn? All right. So we'll meet again on Thursday, February 13th, on 2025. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice night.
Thank you.